Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast. I'm Kamran.
And I'm Billy.
Billy, what would you say we do here?
Well, we like to dig deep into a bunch of books and shows and movies that we love.
In excruciating detail, right?
In excruciating detail. And we like to talk about things that we like about them, what they make us think, and what we learn from them. And a lot of times we're going to go off topic, but we're going to bring it back in. Basically, it is just two guys hanging out talking about their favorite stuff. And it's not meant to be a replacement for anything. It's meant to be a companion to anything that we're talking about, any shows, any movies, any books that we're talking about. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show with us.
One final note before we begin the episode. If you would like to support our show, we have a Patreon set up. You can find the link at horsefrogproductions.com. You can also email us with any feedback at contact@horsefrogproductions.com. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description. Today we're covering episode 3 of The Boys, the Amazon show. As we do with every episode of covering this show, we give a warning prior to the episode where we inform viewers that this is an extremely violent show. There are topics that are uncomfortable. There is sexual misconduct, and consider this your warning. If any of that subject matter upsets you, please do not listen to this podcast. And now we begin.
Nice.
In the beginning of the episode, we see blood dripping into a sink. This is immediately after the events at the end of episode 2, where Huey exploded translucent. He's just covered in gore.
Yes. Head to toe.
Mm-hmm. We see Huey is in shock. He's standing over the sink and he wants to clean himself off. And it's one of those sinks where they have like a busboy would be washing dishes off. So he's got like a
power hose.
A power hose. He's like washing himself off. In the background, we see Butcher and Frenchie. They're collecting the pieces of translucent using shovels, and they're putting him in a trash bag. It's cool because he still stayed translucent, so you see like the body parts. They're kind of covered in blood in some areas, so you can kind of see their outlines. Yeah.
It's pretty nasty. Pretty funny.
Mm-hmm. Frenchie takes the clothes from Huey that he just changed out of. He's now wearing what appears to be a chef's outfit. Frenchie puts them into a trash can and lights them on fire. Huey apologizes to both Frenchie and Butcher for the mess, and Butcher tells him not to worry about it. Huey did them a favor. Huey wants to know what they're going to do with the remains, and Butcher assures him they'll take care of it. Huey tries to leave at this point to go home because he wants some clothes and he wants his own clothes. Butcher says he'll let him go if Frenchie escorts him, and Huey refuses. And Butcher says, either Frenchie goes with you or I'm going to break your legs.
You can't say a whole lot to that.
Right. And Huey reluctantly agrees to this deal. As Frenchie is getting ready, he mentions that translucent skin won't burn, and he asks where Butcher's going to hide it where Homelander can't find it. Butcher says there's nowhere they could hide it where he won't eventually find it, but they can slow him down a little bit. We see Butcher putting all the remains in this big metal chest, and then he uses 2 incendiary grenades to light the restaurant on fire. This is after Huey and Frenchie have left.
Yep.
We go to the Vought Tower. Starlight is in uniform, and she's walking to Madeline's office. I need to make a correction here. In the past 2 episodes, I've been referring to Madeline as the CEO of Vought. She is actually the Senior VP of Hero Management. That is my mistake.
That's okay. That's a very specific Senior VP, isn't it?
It is. She has a special skill set.
Yeah.
Starlight knocks on the door, and our pal Ashley, our favorite, opens the door and lets her in.
This is why we love you.
Madeline addresses Starlight and asks her to sit down. Madeline starts talking to Starlight about the video of her beating up the 2 men in the alley, the ones that were about to assault the girl. And Starlight tries to interject with an explanation, but Madeline tells her to let her finish. Apparently, the girl that Starlight saved saw the video on YouTube and came forward thanking Starlight. Now, this was one of the issues that Ashley cited,
Yeah.
that there was no girl in the video. She hadn't come forward yet, and it was a really bad look. Starlight says, "That's good, right?" Ashley enters the conversation. She goes, "It's fantastic. You're pulling through the roof." She goes on to say that she got a huge boost with men due to the kicking, but also with women since they love the empowerment. Ashley specifically calls out polling being positive in liberal retreat jurisdictions like New York and San Francisco. Why do you think this is an important stat in this conversation? Is it because Starlight's religious, or is there something else going on that they don't like about VOT?
I'm not really sure. I just always think it's a lot of money comes from California.
Well, I mean, New York too, right? In this case,
New York specifically, and California in particular. But those two places, San Francisco and Los Angeles, always pull in such huge money, especially for that liberal retreat kind of holdout like we're talking about. But it's important that you see a woman be powerful, but also be a woman, I guess. I don't know. But I think it's, I don't know why it's so important on that side of the continent, but apparently it is.
Yeah, and this is a behavior change from Ashley is quite a stark contrast from when she was yelling at Starlight in the bathroom yesterday.
Right.
Or, yeah, it was the day before. Yeah.
Yeah.
Starlight doesn't know what to say, and Madeline tells her to just enjoy it. It's good for Starlight. It's good for all of them because it's a, air quotes, partnership.
of one.
Madeline introduces Seth and Evan from marketing. They have some brilliant ideas to capitalize on the buzz. These two,
they're hilarious.
Clowns.
They're amazing.
Yeah.
They're funny.
They go into this whole sales pitch. It's like a journey from a small town Iowa girl to a hero in the 7. They make a Wizard of Oz comparison as if Starlight was Dorothy. Somehow they tie her into adapting to the big city with feminine strength, and they reveal her new outfit to her. It's an extremely revealing suit. It doesn't leave much to the imagination.
Yeah, not one whit.
Right. And it's something that's closer to what you would see in a comic book.
Yes.
Right. Very skimpy on surface area.
Yes. Very little clothing. I think there might be more material in a bikini sometimes than there are in some of these superhero costumes.
Yep. When Starlight sees this, she is not impressed. Her first reaction is, "I can't wear that." Ashley is confounded. "Why not? It's beautiful." And Starlight says, "It's not me." The suit designer chimes in here.
Could Ashley pull that off?
No.
No. Thank you. Sorry, Ashley.
The suit designer says she designed Homelander's suit, and this is not her first rodeo. So she's getting offended by this whole thing. And then one of the marketing guys, and I need to point out they're both men, tells Starlight it's totally her. It's bold, it's brave, it's feminist. Yes. And Starlight says, "How is that suit feminist?" And the other marketing guy says, "It's empowering. It shows she is confident in her own skin and she's not afraid to show it."
And this is one of the things I always love, that for a woman to be seen as being powerful is for her to be naked almost. The male constituency is kind of what these people paint a picture of, don't they?
I guess it depends on who you're talking to.
I guess so.
I'm not sure which contingent that falls into.
Yeah.
But the way it's presented here, it is definitely satirical, yes. I would say.
I would hope. I am hoping so.
Yeah. The other marketing guy continues. He says, most importantly, it tells the story of her transformation of what Starlight's going through. And Starlight says, "How exactly do you know what I'm going through?" And these guys are quite the pair. I love how they try to sell this to her. And they're using all the right buzzwords, right? Feminist, empowering, confident. Starlight apologizes. She says,
and these are these are the least threatening males on the planet, I think, aren't they?
Yeah, they're generally not much masculine energy coming
Yes.
from them. I will say that. Yeah.
Nicely put, sir.
Yeah. They don't look like the gunpowder guy that we saw
Right.
on the Vought News channel. Let's put it that
Correct.
way. Yeah.
Yes.
So Starlight apologizes, saying she appreciates their effort. She really does, but she's fine with the old outfit. As she's speaking, the camera shows Ashley, who's looking real pissed.
Oh,
And
yes.
she's like huffing and puffing over in the corner, taking a deep breath. Madeline tells Starlight they're not fine with the old outfit. They have a partnership. There is a give and a take.
You remember we air quoted a couple paragraphs back, right?
Yeah, and I guess in this case, Vought is just giving her fame. That's about all they're giving her, right?
Yes.
A paycheck and fame
Yeah.
in return for pretty much everything, right?
I'm assuming that she's got a pretty good lifestyle there. Everything in the 7 looks pretty high dollar, but it's obviously coming with a price, as you're pointing out here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I like this part. Starlight says it's her body. She has the right to choose how much of it she shows. Madeline tells her she does have that right, just not as a member of the 7 unless it's wrapped in that new suit.
Mm.
Yep. And that's how they get you, right? You work so hard to get here, and they can just take it all away. Just go against your values a little bit, just a little bit. And it's just a little bit at a time. They just erode.
It's a slippery slope.
Yeah. We transition to Sports Center, and the host is talking about the A-Train versus Shockwave race of the century. In the background, we can see Shockwave is at the track with his trainers stretching. And, he certainly appears to be driven. He's been at the track every time we've seen him so far. I don't know if that was for marketing purposes or if he's actually practicing at the track, but
he seems
looks
to
driven.
be talking. It's your typical fight where the contender has to talk a bunch of smack, apparently, and the one being an A-Train being the one contested doesn't say anything. At least he has the decency to not be given any lines to say here, I guess.
Right. Yeah, and in comparison to Shockwave, A-Train doesn't seem to be training for anything at all. Nope. And he probably hasn't had to push himself for a long time.
Yep.
He made it to the top and he isn't hungry anymore.
And I put a note here, but it's like, I don't know if he is going to be cheating though.
Right. So now, have you seen the movie Pumping Iron?
I have not. I've always kind of meant to because I love Arnold.
There's this quote. Yeah. There's a line in that movie where a lot of this movie was set up, right? I don't know if you know that Pumping Iron, it was kind of sensationalized.
Oh, okay.
But a bunch of the guys they're tanning and they're kind of laying out in this like stadium in the grass. Okay. It's Arnold and some of his other training buddies. And basically there's a statement that they're saying the wolf on the hill can only go down. And then Arnold counters, he goes, or he can stay up. And then somebody's like, yeah, that's the other option. Somebody else chimes in. They say the wolf climbing the hill is hungrier than the wolf on top of the hill. And then Arnold's perspective is, but the wolf on the top of the hill, when he wants the food, it's there. The champion, when he wants the food, is there. And I think A-Train's in that kind of mindset where he's not really, pushing it. And, Arnold, on the other hand, he was working very hard when he was on top.
They say that, but I guess we'll see it a little bit later on. We'll see A-Train. He's actually stressing a little bit more than he lets on too.
Mm-hmm. Right. The camera zooms out and we see the TV is in the living room of Huey's apartment, just as he and Frenchie have arrived. Huey asks Frenchie to stay out in the hallway, and then Huey goes into the house and he enters his room. And we see pictures of him and his girlfriend all over the place. As he is changing, he notices what appears to be a pop figurine or something similar, like a bobblehead.
It is.
Of A-Train on his nightstand.
Well, there's that, and I'm also here. It's like, why is the Homelander, if the Homelander is their big go-to guy, why are his plushes so crappy? Or was that specifically just for drugging or for running supposed drugs? I'm sorry, for alleged drugs.
The Homelander cuddle toy.
Right. Non-cuddle toy, actually, but
yeah. Huey picks up this bobblehead pop figurine thing of A-Train, and then he begins looking around the room, and he realizes he has suit paraphernalia all over the place. Stuff from the 7 posters, action figures on his shelves, all kinds of stuff. He has a bit of a freak out. He starts throwing things around, smashing shelves, ripping the posters off the wall. When he's done, he sits on his bed and he sees that he has shattered the glass in a picture frame containing a picture of him and his girlfriend. And he takes the picture out of the frame and he's looking at it, and then he begins to tear up.
Yeah. And I think he needed this. Now,
yeah, a little bit of release. He's going through the stages of grief a little bit.
Absolutely. Yep. This guy's, I'm not one to tear things up, but hey, I know people can get upset, and and it's also probably realizing how much he himself has probably worshipped these guys, like the superheroes' lives, until he sees how much of, his interactions has revealed them to be scumbags.
Mm-hmm.
So
these people that he used to look up to or idolize, or really,
well, it's like finding out that the Justice League are all just a bunch of despicable individuals.
Mm-hmm.
They're all really trashy and not behave. Could you imagine if Superman was this way? Boy, you might have more respect for him then.
No, that's you're mischaracterizing it.
I'll retract the statement. Then.
I said he was a good guy. He's not. We got to save it for the episode. Okay, just set it to the side. We're gonna have a discussion dedicated to this. All right.
I don't know if I have enough material for that, but yeah, we'll try.
Well, I mean, it won't be 2 hours. It might be, 30 minutes maybe.
Okay, that's better.
Yeah.
Unless we do a call-in show.
I'm not going to risk that. Not in today's environment.
Nope.
Yep. All right. Huey's dad walks in. He's drawn by the noise of Huey destroying all this stuff. And the dad's a bit shocked by the damage to everything in the room. Huey is packing a bag, and the dad asks if he's going somewhere. When Huey confirms that he is, the dad asks, "Where are you going?" Huey says he doesn't know. The dad tells Huey that he's scaring him, that he spoke with Huey's doctor. And Huey counters with my pediatrician, going back to this point that the dad still views Huey as a child.
Right.
The dad has gotten the name of someone Huey can speak with, like a counselor or something, to help process what he's going through, to get him back to normal, was the words the dad used. Well, and then Huey says, "There's no going back to normal."
No.
Did you want to say something?
Oh, no, I agree. I was going to say, there is no back to normal for Huey.
Yeah. After that,
I think it's bad enough holding your woman's severed hands. Mm-hmm. But it gets a lot darker for Huey's on his journey through the superhero underbelly.
Right. Yeah. He's seen some pretty bad stuff.
Yes, he has.
Yeah. The dad says, "What do you mean?" And then he continues, says, "We've always been very open with each other. We've always told each other everything." And he asks Huey to talk to him. And Huey kind of snaps at him. He tells him to stop it. "I've never told you everything." And the dad says, "What do you mean?" And Huey continues to tell him, "I've never told you how much I hate sitting on the couch watching TV like we're already dead, and how much I hate pizza rolls." And the dad disputes this. He goes, "No, you love pizza rolls." And Huey yells at him and he says, "That was when I was 7. I am not 7.
Nope.
Huey finishes packing, zips up his bag, and begins to walk out. He stops in the doorway and apologizes to his dad. Then he leaves. And the dad's left standing there thinking about what just happened. He picks up a figurine of Homelander and just looks at it. And this scene was tough to get through.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah. And I've mentioned before about this way the dad kind of infantilizes Huey in some ways.
Right.
And I just feel like he's frozen in the past in some way. And I have to wonder if the character just kind of got stuck in time, like maybe when the mom left or something. And
that's kind of what I'm
hasn't
thinking.
Progressed.
I think that's when things were better and they were all a family together. I think, and especially, his idea of you telling me everything is, I guarantee they probably just sit there watching television every night, never saying anything. And they've spent all this time together, but never anything said. So of course he's not telling his dad everything. I mean, come on, but yeah, he lives in his head on a sunny island in his head, I guess.
Yeah. Frenchie is waiting for Huey in the hallway. When Huey walks out into the hallway, Frenchie treats him with a heartwarming story about his bipolar father. Frenchie says, "One night when I was 10, my father tried to smother me with a Hello Kitty duvet."
I'm so sorry. I'm laughing so hard in the background. Continue.
He pats Huey on the shoulder and walks away. Huey's not sure what to think about that.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I at least put it out there that Frenchie does seem to like Huey.
Mm-hmm.
And or maybe it's his job at the moment to care about Huey, so he does at least try to care. He's an odd
I think
fellow.
he's seeing what he's going through.
Yeah.
They did talk a little bit about the killing, right? And then he was talking about the scars. He kind of opened up to Huey a little bit, right?
In the previous episode, yes.
Yeah.
And yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and then you had mentioned that Translucent seemed to be the only person up to the last episode that really actually talked to Huey.
Yeah, and Frenchie kind of did a little bit last episode. He offered him some great hallucinogens.
Yeah, that's true.
So I mean,
but I mean, at least here he's kind of giving him some type of consolation. He's trying to help him get along. Whether, I mean, in Frenchie's messed up mind, this is probably the best that he can offer.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, absolutely. He's trying, and again, it's one of the reasons I love Frenchie. He's trying, dude.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right. We're now introduced to my personal favorite character in this series. Yeah, he's so great. I cannot say enough good things about him.
Oh, man.
So we're taking to a detention facility. There is a man in an office working on something in a notebook. He has to get up and break up a fight between some juvenile delinquents in the mess hall at the detention center that he's working at. We are introduced to Mother's Milk.
Yes.
That's his actual name.
That's his name.
Right. God. We'll refer to him as MM quite frequently just to keep it short. And they refer to him that way in the show as well.
Yes.
In stark contrast to Frenchie, who has always looked a bit disheveled, MM is very clean cut, very put together, right?
Very military looking fella, isn't he?
He absolutely is. Yes. Very disciplined. Everything has to be in its place.
The beard is probably undisciplined as far as he goes, but he's very disciplined. I love him.
Mm-hmm. When he gets in the mess hall, he chastises two juveniles that are fighting, saying, "This is not what we do here. Didn't I tell you we take turns at the pong?" He asks if the boys put their names on the board for a turn at the pong, and the boys both address him with respect, calling him Mr. Milk and apologizing for not following instructions. MM goes on to tell them that this means they have cut in line in front of all the others in the room. He asks them what else that means, and he has to kind of egg them on to get it out of it.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and one of the boys says, "It means we're disrespecting all the other N words." And as soon as he says that, MM interrupts him. He says, "Excuse me," and the boy corrects himself.
Mind you, MM is African American himself.
Yes, yeah. And the boy corrects himself, saying, "All of our fellow brothers in the unit."
All the fellow brothers in the unit.
Right.
Nice.
Yeah. So he's instilling some discipline in these boys.
Absolutely.
Right?
Awesome. Yeah. They fear and respect this guy.
Yes. MM continues on saying, the boys both know how to write in English passively since he taught them how. Isn't that correct? And they both agree, saying, "Yes, sir." Yes, sir. And then he continues to tell them to put their names on the bottom of the board. They both thank him, and then he goes back into his office. And I just love this introduction to him. It's great.
Beautiful.
Yeah. Beautiful. And just as a side note, the amount of patience somebody in that job has to have, like that actually cares about the job, to work with these boys that have had no role models, any opportunity really, right? And just to and stick with it until they turn around. Yeah, some of them probably aren't going to, but yeah,
that's a profound love, I think, to have for folks to want to help them like that. Because I know some people do it for the money, but to do it, you have to like it, I imagine.
To be good at it, you have to like it. Absolutely. Yeah. Because I mean, there's plenty of people that probably do it for the money that don't care.
Right.
You know,
I'm sure. I'm sure our system speaks well for itself.
Mm-hmm. Right. MM goes back into his office where Butcher is waiting for him, and MM is not happy to see him. He says, "What the you want? He doesn't even say hi to him. He goes and sits down at his desk. And I want to point out some of the details of this desk. Everything is perfectly organized. It's in the exact spot that he wants it. The pencils are in one cup. The pens are in another cup. He's got a mug on it that says badass. Everything is like
Absolutely.
perpendicular to each other. It's a beautiful desk.
Yeah, it is. Especially for being in an institution like a detention hall. It's very utilitarian, but it's very nicely organized.
Right. Butcher asks him, what, I can't come visit me old mate and rekindle the spirit of brothers in arms? He tries to solicit a hug from MM. MM says, nope, let's just cut the small talk. All Butcher's going to do is lie and say how he's fine, and MM is going to lie and tell him he's happy to see him. And he pointedly asks Butcher, why are you here? Butcher asks if MM would like to come back and have another go. And MM immediately says no. He doesn't want to know nothing about nothing. He's a happy man. Life is good now. In the middle of this, going back to the way he's organized, it shows him noticing a ruler is out of place on the desk, and he moves it into its proper location, and he's setting his pen in the right spot.
I wish I had that quality.
My desk is a little bit like this. It's not everything has to be organized in a perfect spot, but I don't like clutter on my desk. It's just the work area, what I need for work, right?
I get that.
And this may be one of the reasons why I like him so much, is just this aspect of his personality as it comes through, right?
Sure.
His organization.
But he's also just really cool, though. I mean,
he is. He's
super cool.
The only normal person, and he's got his quirks.
Yes,
but everybody else has like big issues.
Let me ask you something. Are you intimidated by Mother's Milk?
I think, he would definitely mess me up. But in terms of, do I think he would want to harm me? No, because I don't seemingly cares about people.
Exactly. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at, is the fact that he is intimidating, and he looks like he can beat me 6 ways from Sunday, but he seems like a pretty nice guy.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Continue.
No, I was just thinking about it. Mother's Milk continues mentioning that Monique is back and their relationship's good now. Butcher asks, oh, how's Monique doing? To which MM responds saying she spits on the ground every time she hears Butcher's name.
Got a little 7 cities in him, does he? Sorry.
You're gonna give up our surprise. Yeah. Yeah. MM says he can't do that to her again. And I'm assuming he's talking about the last time he worked with Butcher. Whatever transpired put a lot of strain on their relationship, and he doesn't want to do that to her again.
Absolutely.
And then keep coming back to this point about how Butcher treats his companions. Does not have a good track record here either.
No.
Yeah. I can imagine, based on the types of activities they have to get up to in this role, it's got to be hard on a relationship.
Absolutely.
Anybody that tries to maintain a successful relationship, a lot of those military guys, they have problems when they, have to keep going on these missions and stuff like that, right?
Oh, yeah, that'd be hard.
Yeah. MM also mentions that he's making progress with the boys in the detention center. And as he's saying this, Butcher looks out the window to the adjoining mess room, and a fight has broken out, and he says, so I can see. Yeah, MM gets up and bangs on the window, warning the boys not to make him come out there. And this gets them to behave again.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's kind of representative of what's going on internally, isn't it, between Butcher and MM?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah. Butcher comes into life, and Butcher just brings chaos, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, an avatar of chaos.
Yes, pretty much.
Yeah. Butcher says he can't argue with that. It's God's work. But a man of MM's talents is being wasted in this setting. And MM says they were into some bad stuff when they were working together previously. And that was even before the Mallory stuff, which was, and he just kind of trails off. He doesn't finish because he doesn't have the words to describe how bad that was.
Right.
And this is probably the 3rd time we've heard of something with Mallory, right? The Mallory files. We keep hearing about Mallory. Yeah. And MM says if he's going to make a difference, he's just more comfortable doing it on a smaller scale. He's an with a heart, whereas Butcher is just a
brilliant line.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. Butcher plays his trump card. He says, it's funny MM mentioned making a difference because him and his team just dusted his soup. And then he names translucent. Does not believe him initially. Then he asks how they did it. And then Butcher tells him they put a lump of C4 up his butt. And then he continues on to say that before they killed him, Translucent gave them a big lead that could shake up the whole hornet's nest. This could bring down the Seven and Vought at the same time.
Nice and handy.
Sees through this a little bit. He says, "You mean kill Homelander?" Then he asks if this is about Becca. Now, this is the first time we've had any visibility into what might be behind Butcher's motivations.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Butcher says doesn't have his own reasons. He doesn't say anything about what just said. He just tries to turn it around on him. And he also promises that things will be different this time with no secrets and lies. The Mallory isn't going to happen this time either. Thinks for a moment, and then he asks if Butcher is bringing Frenchie back because he can't work with him.
Can't work with him.
Butcher does not even think for a second. He says, "I haven't seen him in years." This is not 2 seconds after he promised him things are going to be different this time around.
But we're back to the user of Friends, Billy Butcher.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we talk about how much we like him, how he seems like such a cool guy. Mm-hmm. What is it about Frenchie that makes him not want to work with him specifically? You think it's that Mallory situation, or
it has to be? And I think I'm not sure if it reads us a whole lot more into that in this whole series or not, because and Frenchie they work well together even if they don't get along. But that may just be because they're professionals.
That's the exact word I was thinking of. They are consummate professionals.
They are consummate professionals for sure. So it's like, even if we don't like each other, they can get the job done.
Mm-hmm. Butcher then continues to say that is the only person he can trust. And says, "When have you ever trusted anyone?"
Did he feed this same line to Frenchie? No, he just fed him a different story, but it's kind of similar, though.
It is. With Frenchie, he basically gave him no choice.
Well, I guess so. He made him blow up his place, and he's able to live out of his. He blew up 2 places of Frenchie. He blew up Frenchie's place and his restaurant.
Mm-hmm. It's Fogo de Chao. That wasn't Frenchie's restaurant, though, right? I mean, that was just some abandoned restaurant.
Do you think it was an abandoned restaurant?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
You think there was some legitimacy to his claim that he was going to open a Fogo de Chao?
I could have been sold. It's like, hey, it's Frenchie. He's charismatic, dude. I love that guy.
Dude, why would a Frenchman open a Fogo de Chao? He's going to open a fine dining establishment.
I don't know. No idea. He sold me because he sold that line at Homelander so good. It's like, wow, it's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, not to say that Fogo de Chao isn't, it's definitely upscale, but it's not like a 3 Michelin star restaurant or something, Can you imagine Frenchie being Okay, either way, we need to move on.
We digress.
Okay. Yeah, we go back to Madeline's office. She has her infant with her. This is the first we've seen of the child.
Yes.
It's probably a baby, maybe 10, 11 months old.
Do we even ever mention this child's name? She doesn't seem to like this child very much either, does she?
Well, I don't know that she's married, right? And she has a job that likely has her working 80 or more hours a week.
Yeah.
I imagine she has attachment to the child, but realistically it's being raised by, or I should say he's being raised as a boy. He's being raised by caretakers most of the time. Probably.
That's a good assumption. Yeah.
Yeah.
She's got the money for great caretakers.
Right. But who knows? Maybe she has some type of setup where they have like them in the office somewhere.
That could be too.
Right.
Vaught's a pretty forward-leaning company. It looks, they at least sell that image.
Externally, they probably do. Yeah. That's exactly. They sell the image. Right. So she has the infant with her. Homelander is there with her, and he is visibly annoyed at this child being here.
Absolutely.
Now, do you think he's more annoyed with the fact that the child is just there being a child, or the fact that it's stealing her attention from him?
It could be both.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of it's going to be more attention, I'm assuming, toward him. But yeah, you never know with Homelander. He's so out there. And at this point, we still don't know anything about the guy. other than that he killed a mayor.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
So other than that, I mean, which is not a good thing, but other than that, we don't. These other people come across as still more villainous than he is, though. But there was something the matter with him for sure.
Mm-hmm. Right. There is a news show on the TV in Madeline's office where the senator that is being blackmailed, he's the chairman of the Appropriations Committee, he's announcing his support for the bill where the soups would be contracted out to the military for national defense. Homelander mentions that Translucent's tracking chip went dead and he could be hurt. Madeline doesn't think that's possible since he has diamond skin.
Right.
She gives Homelander a piece of paper listing his talking points for including the soups in the military. And he reminds her that when she wanted his cape, the one on his costume, to be red, he told her, no, make it the American flag. He doesn't need lines to sell this new initiative, and she should worry about her baby, and he will worry about his. Then he crumples up the paper and tosses it. As he's walking out of her office, she mentions that Mr. Edgar wrote those lines personally. If Homelander has an issue with the lines, he can go up to floor 82 and discuss it with him. This is the first we've heard of Mr. Edgar.
Mr.
And he
Edgar
is the CEO of Vought.
Well, yeah, that's right. He is the CEO.
What's the name of that actor that plays him? Is it
Giancarlo Esposito?
I love him. He's so
Absolutely
good
brilliant
in everything he plays.
First time I saw him, he was in Usual Suspects. He was an FBI
that's
agent.
the first thing I was going to say. And I didn't know him back then.
No.
I recognized him from, obviously like Breaking Bad is what made him, I think, more famous recently. And then when I was going back and watching The Usual Suspects, I was like, oh man, he's been around for a while. I just don't remember anything specifically that it was in besides that. Yeah.
Well, he is forever going to be Gustavo Fring from Breaking Bad.
Mm.
And that's not a bad thing to be. I mean, if you're going to be typecast as something, there's worse things to be typecast as.
Hold that thought for when we introduce this character in this show, because I want to kind of dive in on that a little bit. Okay. Since Madeline mentioned this, as Homelander was almost out of the office, the mention of Mr. Edgar actually makes him pause, which is interesting because Homelander doesn't really appear to be answering to anybody, but this individual is in some way, Homelander looks up to him as somebody that's superior to him in some aspects.
Yes.
He may think he can kill him or whatever, but obviously he has stopped in his tracks and he goes and actually picks the piece of paper up.
Yes, he does. Mm-hmm. That's what I thought. I thought he went back and picked it up and was like, okay, let me unfold it here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Dust it off.
Right. And then Madeline turns her back on him and the baby is looking over her shoulder at Homelander. And there's a really tense stare down between these two. Homelander is mean mugging this baby like you would not believe. It's giving him a death stare.
Boy, yeah, it is a death stare, dude. It's brutal, dude.
Mm-hmm. Butcher and MM are in a rented moving van. Looks like I would say a 14-foot moving van.
Yeah, it's a pretty
It has
big one.
what do they call it? The grandma's attic.
Is that what that's called?
The part above the cab. Yes. I think that's what U-Haul calls it.
Grandma's attic, nice.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
MM is commenting on how cheap Butcher is by renting the van, and Butcher says they don't exactly have a lot of funding. I think his exact words are, "We aren't exactly rolling in it."
Right.
Speaking of which, how do you think all of this is being financed right now?
I'm assuming Butcher's just calling in favors.
Okay.
And also probably has money set aside for a rainy day like this.
Mm-hmm.
He's obviously got a grudge against the soup, so we've got to save that money. It's not cheap being a soup killer.
Mm-hmm. There's a knock on the door to the truck. It's Huey and Frenchie showing up. Huey enters first, and he puts his hand out, introducing himself to MM. MM does not put his hand out to shake Huey's, which is interesting.
It is.
Frenchie and MM see each other, and they immediately go at each other's throats. Frenchie curses in French, and MM calls him a smelly. And Frenchie does look a little swarthy. He's
Yeah.
always seemingly unwashed a little bit. Yeah.
For,
but
got that French vibe to him, but the guy seems like mean as a snake, though.
Yeah. Throws Frenchie against the side of the truck, causing the whole thing to rock on its suspension. That's not conspicuous at all, right?
Not at all.
Frenchie immediately pulls a knife out, and they're both yelling at each other. Butcher tries to get them both to calm down, saying they'll get noticed if they keep it up. And says not until this frog gets what's coming. Now, I had to look this up because I wasn't sure, but it is a derogatory term used to describe French people. I couldn't figure out what the exact origin of it was, but yeah. So the show taught me a derogatory term towards French people.
The only derogatory term that I know the meaning of is limey. You know the meaning for that one, right?
No, I do not. Is it something? Wait, is the lime they would put on the poor people when they put them in the graves?
Good guess, but no, it's for when they traveled a lime a day. That's when they discovered would fight scurvy, and they could pack a lot more limes into a hold than they could lemons or oranges.
Okay.
So their hulls were full of limes.
Okay, so limey is just like a crew member on a vessel?
English. Limey was always, an insult toward English people in general. Like frog is for French, limey is an English person. And limey has to do with the shipping when they ruled they ruled the seven seas, man.
Okay. Thank you for that bit of information. That's interesting.
Strange history lesson.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, this also, in my mind, confirms our suspicions that Frenchie is French and not Canadian French.
Right.
Yeah.
Yes.
So says, he says, not until this frog gets what's coming. Frenchie says, the only thing that is coming is me on your mother's with a French accent. Hilarious. Tells Butcher that they had an agreement about Frenchie, and Butcher tells him that they had put a pin in it. And says there was no pin. He doesn't trust Frenchie. There was no pin because Butcher said he hadn't seen him in years. Frenchie says he's more American than and he calls him a racist piece of
I love that. You have to envision the fact that Frenchie is a little French guy and he's calling this big black guy a racist piece of crap. So,
well, I mean, to be fair, he did use a derogatory term against.
He did call him frog first.
Yeah. But Frenchie is literally half his size, and he's not backing down here.
Yeah, no,
which is interesting.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. Huey wants to know why they're fighting, and Butcher says it's nothing, just water under the bridge. And says, you tell that to Mallory's grandkids. And Frenchie gets serious. It's like more he's taken aback a little bit. He says, whatever happened wasn't his fault. Again, Butcher tries to take control of the situation, and they're interrupted by MM's ringtone, which is Never Gonna Give You Up by Rick Astley. I just laugh so hard every time this happens, right? Continues to stare at Frenchie for a moment, then he curses, reaching for his phone. And he gathers himself and he puts him into a different persona, and then he answers the call. And it's Monique, his wife. Monique. And apparently he forgot to marinate the tilapia.
Yeah, and he's obviously terrified of Monique too, and I love it.
Is it he's terrified or he like really values her?
It's both. I think if we value something, we're afraid we'll lose something.
Yeah. The fear of loss. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Especially since he did lose her once and then he got back together with her.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
Yep. So he's very apologetic to her. He promises he'll pick up some tenderloins and portobello mushrooms and some wine on the way home. And he tells her he needs to get back to work. And as he's getting off the call, he does this long, drawn-out kiss noise into the phone, and immediately all the other guys in the van start cracking up, and it breaks the tension, a little bit.
It's amazing.
Yeah, and slowly turns around. And he says, "All y'all, okay?" And then Butcher tells and Frenchie to make up. Frenchie says, "It, dégage, huh?" Which that means that it's unconcerned or relaxed in French. Good. So I guess this is, it's all good. So they shake hands, and Frenchie again starts teasing about the call, making kissing noises. And then was like, get out of here with that. So finally, he asks who Huey is, and Butcher introduces them, and Huey asks if MM or Mother's Milk is a nickname. And MM says, no, my mother actually named me Mother's Milk.
Mother's Milk. There you go.
And Huey goes, did she? Like, still not believing it.
I know. I love that.
Yeah. MM turns to Butcher and sums up the team as a French whore and a Stephen Hawking, and tells Butcher he's done a great job. And Butcher tells MM that it was Steve Hawking that killed the soup. We now see, after this scene ends, exactly why they're in this van. They have surveillance set up outside of Pop Claw's residence, and she is just coming home. Frenchie sees this on the monitor in the van. Pop Claw's landlord is waiting for her on the steps to the apartment building, and he tells her the rent was due last week, and she tells him, was it? And then she tells him she'll drop off the check ASAP.
You've seen The Big Lebowski, right?
Of course.
Hey, dude, it's the 15th tomorrow.
And it still took prodding multiple times to get to the point about rent was due, right?
Right.
It wasn't just he realized it immediately.
Yeah, far out, dude. I love it. It's one of my favorite responses. Rent's due this week, far out.
It's been a while since I watched that. Love that movie.
It has been.
Yeah. The weasel
movie.
scene.
Now, do you know that Blood Simple is on HBO Max?
What is that?
It's the Coens' first movie.
No, I've never seen that.
They have some location shots at Lake Travis in Austin.
Okay.
And dude, it's a hair-raising thriller. It's good. You need to check it out.
Is it like tense, like No Country for Old Men?
It's more intense.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Nice.
It's a woman asks her lover to kill her husband.
Oh.
And it's real twisted, dude. It's great. It's Coen Brothers' first movie. I'll say no more. You'll love it. It's brutal. It's great. It's mean.
Cool.
It's funny. It's mean. It's cold-blooded.
Mm-hmm. All right, cool. I'll check it out.
Okay.
Yeah.
Really sorry.
That's all right. So he tells her that the rent was due last week, and she says she'll drop it off as soon as possible. As she turns to walk up the stairs, he turns around, and she's got yoga pants on, and he observes her retreating into the distance.
Posterior?
Yes. Mm-hmm. She doesn't notice this. Butcher and co in the van are discussing the nature of A-Train's relationship with her. They think she's sleeping with them, and she has a lot of information about him. Butcher tells them to get the surveillance bugs sorted out for her apartment. And Huey looks at the equipment and he says, where'd you get this shit? Circuit City?
Yeah, not Fry's. He could have got that at Fry's.
He could have. I don't even know that Circuit City would sell that kind of stuff. Fry's has surveillance equipment. Yeah. So
you can build your own.
Yeah. This is like a Fry's advertisement. Every episode we're talking about Fry's.
Brought to you by the now defunct Fry's Electronics.
MM agrees, calling Butcher a cheap bastard. Huey shows off his techie side here. He's saying they don't need any of this stuff. All the rooms in her house already have electronics in them, and they have cameras in them. He continues on, if he can get her IP address and he can get access to her network, then they can access the cameras. And then Frenchie goes, they have cameras in the toilet? It's like, why do you think he asked that?
I don't know what. I'm just assuming it's a Garth Ennis toilet obsessed reference. I don't know. I don't know why there's so much toilet reference in this show and why people want to hang out invisible in the restrooms. If I was invisible, I'd hang out in the corridors of power or something, wouldn't you?
Man, I don't know what I'd do. I was
thinking about that the other day. The senator's restroom. I mean, I bet some crazy
I don't think I'd be in any restroom. I'll tell you that much. There's not good stuff happening in there.
It's just things that everyone does, and I don't want to see them do it.
Exactly. Yeah. Huey continues on telling them he just needs 5 minutes inside since home service is his specialty. That was one of the things he used to do at his job.
Right.
Huey and MM go up to the apartment. They knock, and Popclaw opens the door. Huey has a shirt on from Bryman Audiovisual, and just has a white t-shirt on. Huey begins to introduce them, and he points to his name badge, and then he realizes that it doesn't say Huey on it, I guess. And then
he's pointing to his name badge, but he realizes that Mother's Milk is wearing his name badge on his white t-shirt as his uniform.
Oh, is that what's going on?
That's what it is.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I watched that after I saw that. I was like, I had to rewatch this scene. It's like, it's just one of those things that he was like pointing at his name tag where he's used to it being. It's like, wait a minute.
Yeah. And
Okay,
then
that's his uniform. I'm Gary. It's
he points to and he says, "This is Huey, and I'm Gary," which is actually pretty good recovery. Yeah. Mm-hmm. She says she didn't make an appointment, and Huey tells her that her manager did. The entire building is being upgraded, and she still doesn't believe him since she just saw the landlord, and he didn't mention it. And then showing some of his skill here, he shows her a work order. Huey continues telling her it'll only take a minute, and it'll take her all the way up to 1,000 Mbps, which is a lot. And then she agrees and lets them in. Now, I was thinking about this, and I was like, I know all of the jargon he's using.
Right.
And I was like, man.
Is that a good thing, or is that? I wish I knew more.
Is this what I talk like to people when I was at Fry's? I don't remember.
No.
I think I was a little bit more. I guess I would tone it down a bit to make it more understandable. I think I would try.
Well, customers, myself included, you guys start talking about TV sales and my eyes glaze over. I just need to know, is it going to look good? Is it worth the upgrade to a better cable, to the monster package? Is it worth it? Is it worth the price? And is the PSC really worth it? It's like, I'm sorry, the performance service contract for all you uninitiated out there. Okay, right, sorry. Yeah. Continue, please. Yeah. I apologize.
Well, I mean, I'm the one that's caused that.
Well, I think that we should market this show to ex-Fry's employees. Maybe we can get an audience.
maybe there's a podcast for Fry's experiences.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things out there with a lot of Fry's people on it. So
yeah,
if we can get them listening to us, it's all good, baby.
As Huey and enter the apartment, they see some risque photos that she's taken blown up, and they're on the wall. She's nude in them, but you can't see anything due to how she's posed. They're in black and white.
Very tasteful.
Yeah, they're pretty decent shots. Huey tells her he needs to sign onto her server to download the package. She agrees. Does a little distraction technique. He tells her that he has a confession to make, and he begins buttering her up, telling her that they're big fans of hers, and he cites a movie named Terminal Beauty 3. He's like, that was awesome. And then she says, yeah, that one really came together. Yeah, she's appreciative of the compliment. Then she goes off into the other room. And then makes a hurrying motion to get Huey to get into gear because he seems a little overwhelmed and out of his element. Yeah. And so Huey signs onto the computer, and he's greeted with a background image of A-Train. Well,
think about this. This is twice in less than a week that Huey's been asked to bug dangerous people's places.
Mm-hmm.
So, and he's just a guy like you and me.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. I mean, he is out of his element a little bit.
Out of his element.
A little bit, a lot. So, yeah.
Hey, he's at least in there. He's at least in there.
Yeah. He signs onto her computer, and he's greeted with a background image of A-Train kissing Popclaw on the cheek, and he's staring at it for a while. Comes over his shoulder, and he goes, "You gonna eye that all day?" And again, prompts Huey to get to work. Yeah. As Huey is working, is looking around, and he notices a red bag with a zipper on it in a section within her TV stand. And he kind of just takes a look at it because it caught his attention.
Right.
Huey begins exposing all the cameras for their team. They can start seeing them within the van. And as they're coming online, Frenchie and Butcher are really impressed. When he's done, Huey kind of looks at the webcam on the computer and does kind of like, see, look what I did,
Right. The guy in the van.
Mm-hmm, yeah. Huey and leave, and has her sign the work order on the way out. Huey is just chuffed with himself. He's almost skipping as he walks out, and then as he turns the corner, runs right into A-Train.
Great scene.
Mm-hmm. They are face to face, inches from each other. Huey is staring at him.
Now, they almost run into each other, like almost bump into each other face to face, literally.
Yeah. I think their chests bumped, didn't they?
Probably so,
Yeah.
because it's just you don't have time to react.
They're face to face, and Huey's staring at him, and A-Train does not recognize him at all.
Nope.
Huey asks if they've met before, and A-Train thinks for a moment. He says, maybe. I meet a ton of people. And it's been maybe 2 days since he just apologized and shook his hand. He still doesn't even recognize him.
Nope.
It's crazy, man.
That's how they look at us, dude.
Yeah. again has to get things under control. He excuses them and tells Huey his parking meter is running out. When they turn the corner, chastises Huey, asking if he is trying to get them killed. I just love the way he handles Huey. He just kind of pushes him through, prods him through this scene, not in a mean way, just, keeping things rolling.
Well, he's a great handler, dude.
He is, yeah. And would you say that's like a core component of his skill set, the people management aspect of it?
Yeah. That's a very core component to have anyhow. And that may just be part of what he does. And he may just assume it naturally too in that situation.
Right. Through his experience. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. We are taken to a training room in the Vought Tower, and we're treated with a cool montage of Queen Maeve training with some really tough-looking guys. They have metal baseball bats, and they're trying to hit her with them.
Right.
And these are regular humans, and she's obviously wiping the floor with them, right?
Absolutely.
Who would volunteer for this job?
Dude, it's the same guys that you see on Enter the Dragon. And you got an island full of kung fu guys. It's like the kind of thing. We're going to be fighting a death match here. You want to take on Queen Maeve?
Like, have you seen Black Dynamite?
If not, I need to.
Oh my God! There's a scene in that where Michael Jai White, he's practicing, and it's kind of like a satire of those kung fu movies, right? But he is jacking these people up that he's training, and then like. You just got to watch it, and then you'll know the scene I'm talking about. It's absolutely hilarious. But the other men had no chance in this training session, and this is a similar thing here, right?
Right.
And I was thinking, these guys must be being paid pretty well by Vought. Otherwise, why would they? Maybe they're super tough, and they think maybe I can prove myself. I don't know. But either way,
I don't want to do it.
And then beyond that, what benefit does Maeve get from going through this? Is it like a reflex type deal? Because obviously they can't hurt her. Is it just going through the motions of fighting to get better at it?
I'm assuming it's like practice with that would make you better at it. But the problem that you get with people that are as powerful as her and Homelander, they usually don't run into anybody they have to fight.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one that's in episode 1 stands in the way and the truck runs into her and collapses around her. I mean, it's like, unless you're hitting harder than that, you're not even making her hurt. You're not even doing anything to her.
Right. To that point, one of them manages to crack her in the face with the metal baseball bat, and it doesn't even do anything.
Didn't do nothing.
Right.
So at least I want to say congratulations to the guy who connected. Good job. Thanks for representing, brother. We appreciate it. But
the session's interrupted by a phone call from work. It says Vought on the caller ID. We transition to a scene where someone has taken over a floor of an office building and is indiscriminately shooting down into the street. He is barricaded in a room, and the Supes have been called in to support local law enforcement. Homelander and Queen Maeve arrive at the scene. They are in the middle of a conversation about Translucent being missing when we see them. And Maeve says he's probably just lurking around a gynecologist's office.
I don't know what upstate citizen Translucent is. Oh my.
I find it interesting that even the Supes know about his depravity. I mean, I guess, him lurking around the bathroom is a pretty good sign of what's going on, but
yeah. I don't get the restroom stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's the last, maybe because it's just the last bastion of privacy. And with him around, you can never be sure if somebody's not watching you go to the toilet, I guess. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
They trying to keep us on our toes.
Yeah. Homelander still thinks something is wrong because he's been missing for 2 days. He doesn't understand why no one is concerned about his absence. And then Maeve thinks that if people find out that one of the 7 is missing, they'll panic. She also points out that Homelander can't even stand translucent. She doesn't understand why he's so concerned about it. As they're walking, we can see bullets hitting the ground around them, and they obviously don't care, right? Just completely nonchalant.
It's not even like rain to these folks.
A cop tells Homelander to give him hell, and Homelander gets in character and gives him a thumbs up.
I love that smile.
He's really good at transitioning.
He puts that smile on. It's like 1,000 volts, dude. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's very good at playing the role. Homelander thinks that if Translucent has been attacked, it's a direct attack on the 7, which is a direct attack on the Homelander himself. Maeve congratulates him that he has made this issue about himself. I think she said in like 7 seconds flat or something like that. Yeah. Homelander notes that Maeve is down 1.5 points in the polls and that she should be thanking him for showing up to this intervention, giving her the free press. I guess this was just supposed to be Maeve and he just randomly showed up.
I'm guessing so. He must have received a copy of her crime itinerary. Do the big boys like Maeve and Homelander get a crime itinerary?
She got a call this time.
Oh, that's right. She did get a call.
Yeah, because this wasn't a team up.
That's right. It just
an official team up. It was an unofficial team up. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. They meet the commanding officer on the scene, and he thanks them for showing up. And Homelander tells him the cops are the real heroes here. The commander then tells them that the shooter is on the 31st floor. And Homelander immediately just launches himself up there and flies through a window, leaving Maeve to take the elevators.
I love his smugness when he talks about the cops being the real heroes. Mm-hmm. I'm reminded of the George Clooney acceptance speech in South Park that causes all the smug.
Oh,
it just drips. You can almost see it drip off of him, dude.
I'll have to go back and watch that scene because I thought it sounded, for his style, relatively genuine. In terms of him being in character.
He can put that smile on, but look at his eyes, dude.
Okay,
look at the eyes.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and look at it.
The eyes. It just never reaches him because he's. Mm-hmm. We've talked about him. We'll talk more about him as we continue the series, but okay, sorry. Go ahead, brother.
So I had 2 notes here about him just launching himself up there. The first one is when he goes through that window, that glass blasts out like 30 feet. Can you imagine that stuff falling on the crowd below?
Oh, it would kill a bunch of people, you'd think, or hurt people. Let's say it would at least hurt somebody.
Right. Then the second thing is he could have carried Maeve up there.
But she would have needed a man's help.
That was the next thing is, would it look bad if she needed that help?
It could hurt her numbers, I guess, because these people are definitely more concerned with numbers and image. That's consistently talked. That's every episode is hit on that fact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Homelander is waiting for Maeve in the hallway when she gets out of the elevator. They continue their conversation from where they left off as they're walking through the building. They're looking for the room that has the shooter in it. Homelander is complaining about prioritizing the race between A-Train and Shockwave over searching for Translucent. Maeve tells him Mr. Edgar wants them both at the race, selling the bill about the soup supporting the military.
Mr. Edgar.
Homelander mentions that he has X-rayed Mr. Edgar, and he holds his index finger and his thumb like really close together. He goes, he's this close to having a coronary. His blood is like engine oil. Yeah, I like that one. He also continues on to complain about Madeline's baby. Then he brings up the fact that everybody he's talking about, they're only normal humans, and he doesn't understand why the humans snap their fingers and the soups just do what they say. And then Maeve says it's because they sign our checks. Homelander should just skip to the part where he shows up to the race anyway. And then he chuckles a little bit and he tells her that's why he loves her, because she's the only one that will tell him the truth. And they have now arrived at the room containing the shooter.
Right.
They breach the outer door using their strength, and he had a bunch of scaffolding or something behind the door, the shooter did, to keep them from opening it. And they just launch that stuff out of the way.
Now, real quickly, to say something about the fact that she will tell him like the truth is because I think she's one of the few people that could stand up to him in any kind of confrontation.
Yes. Probably. Yeah. I think there's also a little bit of that. We haven't really gotten to that part of the episode yet, but where they had a relationship in the past. Yes. There might be a little bit of some of that familiarity there.
I'm sure there is.
Yeah.
uncomfortable weirdness.
Mhm. They go into the room and Maeve quickly subdues the gunman. This scene is tough.
Yeah.
Very intense. Homelander enters the room and Maeve has him subdued. They're standing next to each other, and Homelander walks up to the gunman and he walks up slowly, and then he grabs the back of his neck with his left hand. Then he takes his right hand and he punches it into the gunman's chest, and he just leaves it in there. And he, like, they're face to face. He just watches him expire.
Yeah. It's brutal, dude.
Yeah. I mean, it's really hard to watch.
It is tough to watch, dude.
Yeah. And then he pulls his hand out. He complains about his glove having stuff on it, and he wipes it on the guy's jacket.
He's wearing gloves.
Yeah. Yeah. But it messed up his uniform. Yeah. Maeve is upset that the man is dead, not because Homelander killed him, but because it was her caller and she wanted to walk him out.
Right.
Now she can't capitalize on the press that she would get from that.
Right.
Homelander picks up the man's gun and he shoots Maeve to make it looks like they were attacked first. Because he's like, you know the drill.
Right.
And then this is reminiscent of like a number of different movies, right? Where they do this, like Training Day and LA Confidential come to mind.
Absolutely.
Where these scenes happen there. Yeah. The bullets obviously have no effect on Maeve. They just kind of like ricochet off her. And then she sighs and she says, "The things I let you do to me." And then he says, "Yeah, we're not even dating anymore." Besides me spoiling it a couple minutes ago, that's the first we've heard of them having a relationship. Yeah.
It's okay.
You mentioned the Greek gods the other day. I think that their relationship must have been like Zeus and Hera.
Yeah.
You have to imagine. I imagine he was screwing around on her big time.
Oh, yeah, dude. He's Homelander, but it's like rules do not apply to this guy.
Exactly.
I guess the only thing that matters is Mr. Edgar. But, you know, he's obviously a little intimidated of Mr. Edgar, but at the same time, there's something, dude. He's a scary one.
Homelander walks out, and then Maeve, she's kind of processing the situation, and she doesn't look happy, and she starts cussing. We go back to Butcher and company. They're in the van watching Popclaw and A-Train make out, and they're into some freaky stuff. She's like, "You want me to do the thing?" And he's like, "All right." And then she starts sucking on his big toe. He makes her stop. His thoughts are preoccupied with losing to Shockwave in the race.
Right.
And he's having a lot of anxiety about it. Stillwell has told him pointedly that if he loses, he will no longer be in the 7.
That's a lot of pressure.
It is. Yeah. He is older than Shockwave, and he isn't really practicing, so that makes him even more nervous, probably.
Yeah.
He asks Popclaw for the Compound V, and she says, "Are you sure? Because it amps him up, so much."
Right.
There was an incident the last time he took it, and the guys in the van perk up. He says, "This won't happen again. He's under control now." And then she says, "You ran through a girl." And that's not what I would call control.
Yeah.
She continues, "Drugs are a slippery slope. Take it from me." And he says, "I need it." And then she says she'll still love him if he loses.
Ugh.
He doesn't think that will help him. And this hurts her. And it just devolves into a fight from here. He's saying he doesn't want to lose and be a washed up B squatter. And then she says, "Oh, like me?" He says that's not how he meant it. He tells her again to show him where the V is and he'll come back after the race. And this upsets her even more because they're dating, but it's not public. And she was under the impression that he had okayed Popclaw going to the race with him officially as his girlfriend. And she goes into like how she's been getting ready, plucking every hair on her body, threading her eyebrows, all this other stuff. And basically he never got it cleared with Madeline.
Right.
So he didn't even ask.
No.
And so he's been lying to her about it, right?
Yes.
And then he pushes her for the V again. And she looks really hurt, but she brings the bag to him. Takes out a vial of the Compound V. In the van, they have the confirmation they need that the Compound V is a trail they need to follow. Butcher is very excited because this could lead to the downfall of Vought and the 7.
No. It could.
He thinks his contacts in the CIA would be very happy to get their hands on this information. Frenchie says, yes, after we confirm that it does what we think it does. And then Butcher asks him, do you think you can figure it out? And Frenchie says he can run some tests, of course, but there's no way of knowing unless he tries some himself.
Right.
And I was like, he's got to be one of those people that has to try every drug he can get his hands on.
Well, I might be inclined to try that one if I thought I could get some real superpowers out of it.
You think he would want that, though?
I don't know. I think I might try it for that, but I don't want this, like I have a note here, but I don't want the Doom Patrol superpowers where it's like some crazy messed up superpower where it's more drawback than power. I want a good superpower like super speed, or Homelander has the best of the best. I mean, I'm sorry. If you could be any of those guys, I'd go for being Homelander, wouldn't you?
Given Batman is not in this, I every time I might be inclined to agree with you. Maybe.
Right. I mean,
maybe.
I don't know, but it's, but
I'll have to think about it. But likely, yes. I don't know, Starlight's powers seem really cool.
She's pretty cool, dude. She's got some pretty good strength. She's got, I would think Fish Guys is not too bad either until you see the gills.
No. Under no circumstances. No. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry.
Huey sarcastically says, "Amazing idea." and Butcher says, "We'll cross that bridge when we burn it." I love it. It's great. And I was like, it's probably not good to be burning bridges, but it just seems in line with his persona. It does. But and then Butcher, he finishes, he says, "First of all, we have to get some of the compound V." We go to the day of the race. We're taken to the stadium. There's a pretty decent sized crowd there. It's completely packed. I would say 50, 60,000 people.
Yeah, maybe more.
Butcher and his friends show up in Frenchie's van. They are disguised as members of the press. Frenchie and Butcher, they head off. In the van, is getting Huey set up with his cover. And he's telling him he's a reporter, and he gives him a camera, and then he starts to get his audio ready. As he's doing so, he begins making small talk. He says Butcher told that he met Huey a couple days ago. Huey confirms, and then says, "Talk about a baptism of fire."
Yeah.
And asks how Huey pulled off killing Translucent. And Huey says he guesses he was just lucky. And says, "Still, it must have been scary."
Absolutely.
And then Huey confides in He says, "It's messed up in some ways that killing Translucent kind of felt good." I feel like the counselor in is really coming out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Getting him to talk. Yeah. And says he can tell it's written all over Huey's face. And then Huey continues. He says he's talking about the rush that he felt with the detonator in his hand, that he felt alive. And cautions Huey that the rush is no different than A-Train shooting up Compound V. Everything comes with a price. Right. Huey thinks for a moment. Then he says the last thing he ever said to his girlfriend was, "Don't you ever besmirch Billy Joel." Now, I didn't really go into this in episode 1, but he's a really big Billy Joel fan, and he's a fan of somebody else. I can't remember who it was. But when him and his girlfriend were walking down the street, she did kind of say something about not liking Billy Joel, and then that's when he said, "Don't you ever besmirch Billy Joel." And then immediately after that, she dies.
But, I would like to hope that the guy's not beat himself up over that's the last thing he said to her. I mean, they were obviously playing around. I mean, he wasn't telling her he hated her or something like that. It's like, I mean, I get regrets over things like that, sure, but sometimes it's like, you know what I'm saying? I feel like he kind of like chews himself up a little bit too much on this point.
Yeah, because in this moment, he does say that it upsets him that that's the last thing that she ever got to hear before she died, and then he has to live with that for the rest of his life. Right. Now, and I just attribute this to him going through his stages of grief again.
You're probably right.
Think. Yeah. Because it was not ill-intentioned. They were joking around. I think he's just more upset that she's dead than that's what he said to her.
That's what I like to hope so too.
Yeah. Huey finishes. This is critical. He says, whatever the price is, he's willing to pay it. Yeah. That's a bold claim.
It is. That's a very bold claim here.
We see a Vought-produced intro to the race of the century. The camera zooms out from the TV to show that we are in Pop Claw's apartment and she's watching the coverage. She's drinking and she looks really upset. Back at the stadium, we see Frenchie pulling an Ethan Hunt in the air vent leading up to the locker room.
Nice.
He can see through the vent that A-Train is having balm administered to his sensitive chest parts to prevent chafing by his trainers putting the stuff on, the balm.
The balm,
right?
the unguent.
Yeah. Yeah, sacred unguents. His brother is there, and they discuss their mother looking down on A-Train, putting the winds at his back. His brother seems like a pretty cool guy.
Well, he's a trainer. He's got that mental positive thing, that positive mental attitude going where, yeah, dude. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm also getting down on you. It's cool, dude.
Yeah. After A-Train confirms that he's mentally prepared for the race, they head off. He leaves the bag Pop Claw gave him in the locker room. Outside, amidst the crowd, Starlight and Black Noir come out to greet them, and she's wearing her new feminist costume.
I'm so sorry. I love that statement of her new feminist costume, or lack thereof.
It's designed for the male gaze.
Yes, it is.
But it's feminist.
Right. That's thank you. You see, you did a much better job of summing that up than I did previously. Thank you.
Babe is conducting an interview using the talking points about the soups in the military. Right. She says she's tired of the red tape and the deep state bureaucrats. If people want soups in the military, then the people can order Congress to do it. And she says, am I right? And the crowd starts cheering, right?
Yeah.
Homelander comes in from the sky, lands hard, cracking the ground, goes down to one knee. The badass entrance that a lot of these flying superheroes do.
Now, I have a question here. If you could do that, would you do that every time you landed?
Oh, man.
Or just every time there's people?
I have to think that at some point, people would begin to get upset that you are breaking their foundations. That was what I thought is the repairing the damage is going to be something. But
it's like this guy again. Oh my God, it's not this guy again.
It does look really cool.
It looks great though.
Yeah.
I would have a hard time not traveling with a road crew. It's like, y'all meet me over here. I'm going to do a great entrance. It's like, boom.
Yeah. When he lands, the air buffets Maeve's hair, and she doesn't look happy for him to be stealing her spotlight again.
Right.
But it is an amazing entrance. So he comes in, he amps up the crowd for the upcoming race. As he's turning around, he curses at him.
I love it, dude.
Black Noir and Starlight are signing autographs for fans. The Black Noir art that he's signing looks really cool.
Yeah, it does. That's some dark.
It doesn't really show it for very long, but it looks really sick.
Really cool.
Yeah. A girl that is probably 12 or 13 years old is there to get an autograph from Starlight, and she has Starlight's old uniform on.
So the non-feminist model is the old model? Okay.
It's the chastity model. Yeah.
Okay.
And she asks for a selfie with Starlight, and Starlight compliments her outfit, saying she really dressed the part. And the girl says she's saving up for the new outfit. Starlight has to lean down because the girl's shorter than her, and she has to hold the front of her outfit together to keep her bits from falling out.
Right.
As she's doing this, two obnoxious men yell at her for her to show them her stuff, Right. And the girl, this is a young teenage girl, right?
Little girl, she's what, 12, 13?
Yeah, she's like 12 or 13, and she looks uncomfortably up at Starlight, who's her hero.
Right.
Right.
I want Starlight to pound those trash. Don't you?
She was going to.
She was. I wanted her to.
So the men continue to egg her on, and she makes a move for him, and then guess who stops her?
But we love
Our
you,
favorite.
But...
Yeah. Ashley stops her, telling her not to push her luck. The girl looks disappointed that her hero didn't stand up for herself. Yeah. In some ways, I think this girl looks at her as a role model.
Absolutely.
It's sad to see this, right?
Well, and imagine if Batman were cool enough to come sign autographs somewhere, and you go and you meet him, and his handler, is having to handle you in such a way. I mean, like, come on, dude. Could you imagine Ashley around Batman? I love it, dude. We need that.
Oh man,
Ashley and Batman.
Yeah, do an animated series on that. It'd be great. You could have Will Arnett voice it too, like the Lego Batman.
Yeah, absolutely. I love it.
Yeah. So as the girl's leaving, Starlight tells her to save her money. She likes the old outfit much better.
Yeah.
I don't think that did enough to undo the damage that was done here
No.
to, to the image of Starlight in this girl's
You
eyes.
just drug
Yeah.
poor Starlight through the muck and grime of the seven here over just a few episodes too. It's pretty amazing what she's seen too.
Right. Yeah. The compromises she continues to make, though,
Yeah.
it's building up.
Yes, it is.
Yeah. After this, Starlight tells Ashley that she needs a minute to calm down, and she leaves the autograph signing. Ashley, again, it does not look happy. As Starlight is walking away, the men continue to egg her on.
Yeah, they do.
The worst thing about these men is, like, there's kids around. Not that
Yes.
the behavior is acceptable in any circumstance, but the fact that there's kids around makes it even worse.
Yes.
And it's just, yeah, she should have been able to do something about that. Some security should have kicked him out or something.
Absolutely. For talking that way in front of little kids.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just talking to the heroes like that.
Yeah.
You don't want them talking to your heroes like that.
No, you don't.
Yeah. Back outside, Homelander and Maeve are waving to the crowd. Maeve comments that she's glad he made it. She had a feeling he might, because remember, she said, let's skip to the part where you just show up anyway.
Right.
He was doing all that complaining about it. Homelander, he reminisces about past times when they used to fly off to Paris on a whim. And then Maeve comments that she remembers being cold as hell as he carried her over the Atlantic.
Her lack of a costume as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Homelander asks, why did we ever break up? And Maeve thinks it would be better if they didn't go into that subject. Homelander, and now remember, they're surrounded by the crowd. They're like waving to them and stuff and putting on a show. He puts his right hand behind her neck and says if he ever thought she had fallen for someone else, he doesn't think he could handle it.
Yeah.
It's very possessive, this hand on the neck thing.
Yes.
Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. I own you. Mm-hmm. That's an I own you move.
Right. She's doing a pretty good job of putting on a positive appearance for the people that are around there.
Yes.
But she is uncomfortable.
Absolutely. But she's a consummate professional. Mm-hmm. I'm sorry, as far as putting on a show for people.
Right. Homelander says she and he are different. They're better. And he finishes with together forever. She grabs his hand and raises it, to kind of wave to the crowd. And then she manages to break away and then turns and goes inside. Her facial expression completely changes as she's walking away.
Yeah.
Now, she manages to keep it together because they're in front of a crowd.
Yes.
Do you think she's scared of him, or?
And that, that's a fantastic question, because I think she should be scared of him, because the biggest thing he's got going is the fact that he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. That's a big liability for people who care if you're going to be a superpowered thing. And I think she's afraid of him, and she should be, rightfully so. But she's also, I think she'd be more afraid for the people, because if they just started duking it out, there's a chance they could stop and be okay, but they could kill thousands of people just in that little outburst.
Right.
If it
there's some bit of humanity to her still.
Yes,
I think. Yeah,
there is. There's a lot more. They don't show us a lot about her, but what we see about her is we see her. Well, she becomes more human as the show progresses as well.
Right. We see more aspects of her.
Yes.
Yeah. Then we might get a little more insight into why she's so scared.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay. A-Train is walking out to the track for the race with his entourage. When A-Train gets out to the track, Butcher gives Frenchie the all clear to breach the locker room and find the Compound V. Huey is down the hallway where A-Train has just walked by, and he sees Starlight walk by in uniform, and he recognizes her. The last time he saw her was on the park bench. She was wearing normal clothes, and he recognizes her as Starlight now. He gets her attention just as she is about to enter the locker room, with Frenchie midair climbing down the rope from the ventilation shaft, and he's just kind of hanging there. No, he is not. Yeah, he's definitely not, splayed out, kind of, going by his belt. He also doesn't have help either, right? Like Ethan Hunt had some help. Correct. Right. From another Frenchman.
One of my favorite Frenchmen.
Yes.
I love Jean Reno.
Excellent actor. Yeah. He gets her attention just as she's about to enter the locker room, and Starlight recognizes Huey. Huey realizes fully that she's Starlight, and he can't believe it that he didn't figure it out before. And she says she's comforted that he wasn't able to figure it out, because that means her disguise is working, right? Yeah. Butcher is listening on the radio and is surprised Huey knows Starlight. And Butcher has commented before on the surprises that just keep coming from Huey. Starlight tries to leave and go into the locker room, but Butcher tells Huey that they need more time. Huey thinks fast and offers to buy her an overpriced beer. She counters with, if he includes overpriced nachos, then she will agree. And so they go off to get that. Frenchie is now cleared to search the locker room uninterrupted, and his search of the room is fruitless. Hugh and Starlight are sitting at a table with their food and drinks, and it's a pretty nice restaurant area. It seems elevated, big windows, so I guess they can look out over the track. It's probably some type of VIP area or something.
She's Starlight. She's with the Vought with the 7, dude. Come on.
Right. And fans aren't kind of mobbing her, so she must have, they must be separated from everybody. Yeah.
From the hoi polloi.
Yeah.
I don't get to say that very often. Sorry.
Huey is commenting on how different she looks compared to when they met in the park. He says she looked so normal then, and then now she's like, "What am I, a freak?" And he says that's not what he meant. He just wasn't getting Beyonce vibes in the park. And then she laughs and says she was just messing with him. And then it's really nice to speak with someone who didn't know who she was.
That would be nice.
In that situation, yeah. She begins to confide in him that once you are behind the scenes at Vought, it's different. She's not sure they want her to be a hero. They just want her to look like one.
Nicely stated.
Yeah. And then Huey, he kills the radio so Butcher and the rest can't hear the rest of the conversation. He asks her about whether she meant the job at Vought when she told him she hated her job when they were in the park. And she nods in affirmation. He tells her, then just quit. She has nothing to prove. She doesn't respond, and then she says she needs to get back to work before they send a search party for her. He begins to kind of fumble around a bit. He's starting to ask her something, and then she just pointedly asks him, do you want my number? And he says, yes, that's what I was going to ask. When he gets it, he makes a joke, and he says, should I call you or commit a crime? And she says, it'd probably be quicker if you committed a crime.
Nice conversation. It's very genuine. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, they have a good chemistry together, I think.
I think they do.
Mm-hmm. Back down at the track, Shockwave comes out. A-Train starts to spaz out. He goes into super speed mode for a second, a fraction of a second, really. And then his brother notices, and he asks if he's okay. A-Train kind of brushes it off. He attributes it to the spirit of their mother entering him. Butcher can tell, based on his behavior, that A-Train is on drugs. He says they missed their opportunity to snag the Compound B. Remembers something that he saw in Popclaw's apartment, and he is on his phone looking at the surveillance feed. Right. He can see Popclaw. She's taken out the red case that he noticed that was in her TV stand, and he noticed that when they were in her apartment. Right. Sees this in the feed, and he leaves the stadium to go check on the situation. The announcers ask everyone to turn their attention to the track. The race is about to begin. This part's really cool. The music's ominous. While the whole crowd is turning to look at the track, Butcher is facing the opposite direction, looking up, and Homelander several rows above him. Mm-hmm. And they make eye contact.
I love that shot.
Butcher is just staring at him for a long time.
Oh, he's eyeballing him hard.
He does. And then he has a cocksure smile, I would say.
Who? Butcher?
Butcher.
Okay,
yeah. And Homelander looks down at him, and he's like, what is this guy doing? Right. Yeah. You talk about testing your fate.
Yeah.
I mean,
absolutely. Do that.
You got to wonder why he's doing this. I guess he's just so upset about whatever Homelander did to him.
Right. And Homelander apparently doesn't recognize him. So, I mean,
yeah. A-Train and Shockwave, they give each other a look before the race. A-Train looks desperate. He does not look confident at all. They've taken their positions. They have concrete barriers set up for them to launch off of. The gun goes off, indicating the start of the race, And when they launch, they cause these barriers to crack from the force that they exert on them. It's pretty sweet. Yeah. The entire race takes 1.078 seconds. And A-Train wins. A-Train was clocked at 371 meters per second, and Shockwave was clocked at 342 meters per second. That's a significant difference.
It is.
Yeah. Now, given this race was 1.078 seconds, would you go through all of the trouble of driving there, parking, walking to your seat, paying overpriced concessions?
No.
Just for 1 second?
I have a harder time leaving the house to go get something to eat, let alone wanting to go to some event, and especially for an event that's going to take a second. I mean,
yeah,
it would have to be somebody signing autographs, because they're getting some autographs signed there from some of those people. So if I was going to be guaranteed getting a shot at getting an autograph from somebody, then that might draw me out, I guess. But knowing that the race is going to be that quick, and you're not even going to be, and they showed you couldn't even see who won it until they ran it back.
Right. They had to do slow motion to even show who crossed the line first. Yeah.
Because we can't tell.
Right. Homelander is clapping following the race, and he looks back down to where Butcher was standing, and he's no longer there. He does kind of have a little bit of a concerned expression on his face.
He does.
I would say. Yeah.
I think he's wondering what that was all about.
Yeah. Probably. Yeah. Maybe not so much concern, but like, what the heck?
Well, no one looks at him like that. No one makes eye contact with this fellow.
Right. Butcher and company are driving away from the race. Butcher turns around and asks Huey how he knows Starlight. And Huey tells him he doesn't really know her. They just met on a park bench. Then Butcher asks Huey if he got her number, and Huey confirms that he did. Butcher thinks this is a good thing.
It is.
At this point, MM calls them and lets them know that Popclaw has a bottle of Compound V. He tells them to get over to the surveillance van by her apartment now.
And I love that remark right there. Popclaw's eyeballing a vial of V like it's made of Snickers. Mother's milk. Great.
Popclaw is watching the post-race interview. A-Train is speaking with the press. One of the reporters asks A-Train how he is celebrating tonight and whether he has any special girl in his life. And A-Train says, "Oh, you know me. I'm always in the game, but I'm too fast to catch."
Wow.
And then he finishes saying he's open to offers from the ladies.
And gum.
And this sets Popclaw off down the spiral. She decides to shoot up the Compound V. The next thing we see, she is squatting 945 pounds.
And she's built like she's like 90 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, she's very thin. Yeah. Very, very thin. She's got like a model-esque body, right?
Yeah.
Apparently, she's been at it for an hour, squatting 945 pounds repeatedly. Butcher asks MM how he knew she would have some Compound V, and MM tells him that he's been around long enough to know a fixed kit when he sees one. She also mentioned that taking Compound V is a slippery slope.
Absolutely.
When she was talking to A-Train. Back inside the apartment, Popclaw lives up to her name, and she makes the spikes come out of her forearms. And she's doing some mock hand-to-hand combat practice. Her doorbell rings, interrupting her training session, and it's her landlord. He's there to pick up the rent. She starts flirting with him and offers him a drink. And he's kind of looking at her risque pictures on the wall, and she's like, "You like what you see?" He's kind of flabbergasted a little bit. She says, there's a world in which, like, she makes a deal with him. Right, where she doesn't pay the rent and something happens.
Right.
The next thing we see, they're doing some role play where he is a burglar in his underwear.
We're not talking about Dungeons and Dragons either.
No. Yeah. He's in his underwear. He's got a ski mask on. And then she walks in wearing lingerie and she catches him. She's the police, right? Now, this part is nasty.
Yes, it is.
Absolutely. So she subdues him. He rips his ski mask off. She throws him down on the ground and then kind of sits on his head, reverse cowgirl style. And then she keeps repeating, "You like to eat ass." And then she's getting out of control and she gets more and more vigorous with this motion. He can't breathe. Huey says he wants to go and stop this because he thinks the landlord is going to get hurt. And Butcher prevents him from leaving the van. Very shortly after that, she gets to a point where she contracts her muscles so hard that it literally causes his head to rupture. The brain just explodes all over the carpet. It's like a really tough scene to watch.
Yeah, it's like a watermelon popping open, but with brains.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm a bit squeamish, so it was not enjoyable to see.
I'm a gore hound, or kind of used to be, not so much lately, but the show is absolutely brutal.
Yes.
And they don't hesitate or flinch from showing things. So this is definitely, again, as we always state, not a show for anybody under 18.
Right. She stands up and she turns around. Then she realizes what she did. She starts screaming. In the van, Huey accuses Butcher of letting the landlord die. And Butcher says he was dead already. And Huey's like, bull. Butcher says, do you think you could have run across the street and run up 4 flights of stairs in 10 seconds like a soup can? He also adds that if Huey had arrived on time, Popclaw would have clawed his head off.
Yes, she would have.
Mm-hmm. Butcher then goes on to say that they have her exactly where they want her. The one weakness that all soups have is their reputation.
And this is a crucial statement here, because this is true. I think this is the most truest statement in the show. It's that all of these guys' weaknesses is their reputation.
Right. They keep talking about their polling numbers.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The point about Homelander not carrying Maeve up to the top floor, which was the more expedient way of getting up there because of the appearance of that likely.
Right.
Stuff like that. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Frenchie and Butcher leave the van to go up to her apartment. MM reminds Huey that he said, whatever the price is, he'll pay it. And he looks at him, he goes, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
a very bold statement.
Bold statement. I think he realizes he ain't going to be capable of it.
Right.
Because this is not what he signed up for, watching someone else die like that. That's a pretty rough thing to watch, knowing they could have tried to have stopped it, but they wouldn't have stopped it, I don't think.
No, they couldn't have got there in time. There's no way. There's no way. Because it happened very shortly after they were arguing about it.
Yeah.
About Huey going out of the van.
Yeah.
Butcher and Frenchie enter her apartment and approach her. She gets defensive, and Butcher assures her that they're not there to hurt her. They're just there to help her. All she has to do is tell them about Compound V. He holds up the vial as he says it. She wants to know who they are, and Butcher just smiles.
He has a bad smile. It's a cold smile. It's a shark smile, isn't it?
It was a, we got you.
Yeah, it is.
Got you, suckers.
Yeah. Now you remind me of another movie, Bowfinger.
Yeah, that's what I was quoting.
Nice. Yeah. Gotcha, suckers. Nice.
We're taken to the command room at Vought. The Deep is sitting in his seat, and Homelander is standing in his customary position looking out the window. Homelander has requested to speak with Madeline. She enters the command room and says, she got his message, where is the fire? And Homelander corrects her. He says, not fire, water. Just ask my little guppy here. The Deep gets up and says,
a very good friend.
A very good friend of mine told me, and Homelander stops him. He says, it was a porpoise. A porpoise found this at the bottom of the harbor.
Oh my goodness. I love the Deep. He's so terrible. I love how he grovels around the Homelander.
Yeah.
It reminds you of the old Looney Tunes where you've got the little dog and the big bulldog. It's like, well, yeah, boss. Yeah, boss. Yeah, boss. You say it's like that's the Deep. Anything goes with the Homelander. He's going to be. That guy could say anything he wants to right now. He'd be like, yeah.
Yeah, you're very smart.
Yeah, very, very smart. Yes. Ooh, it's a porpoise.
Right. So the item that was found by the Deep's very good friend is a familiar looking case. Right. Madeline goes up and opens it, and she sees the body parts inside. She freaks out and asks if that's translucent. And Homelander asks if she still doesn't think they have a problem. She wants to know how they got through his skin. And she begins to ask, what kind of maniac? And Homelander interrupts her, saying, no, not a maniac. Smart, actually. Very smart. He goes on to explain how the case is made of zinc, which would make it impenetrable to his X-ray vision. He also says that they knew the case would be found eventually, so that they were just buying time. Madeline wants to know how he would know that. Homelander tells her he's glad she asked, and has the Deep open the lid.
Before we get to that reveal, there is that scene with him talking about opening, but right before he opens it, and that look of the Deep, but as he stands back there before he but that self-important look, I get to open the case. Is now the time to open the case? Wait.
He did have him do that. That's right. Like a lackey.
Yeah.
Back there. Yeah. Yeah. There was a little bit of an exchange back and forth, right? Where I just summarized it as Homelander's explaining that the case is made of zinc, but the way.
Oh yeah, that's what it is. What can I see through? Oh, zinc.
The way he said it. What can't I see through? And then zinc. And then he goes, and what is the case made of?
That's what
and there's no response. And he looks back, and then the Deep says, zinc. And he says, yes, thank you. Like, idiot, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
Too good.
The Deep opens the lid fully at Homelander's request, and inside there is a message on the bottom of the lid. It says, coming for you. And Homelander finishes the episode saying, whoever wrote that just declared war.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a very good episode.
Good episode.
I really like all the scenes with MM. What a great character.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Love that dude.
It was cool to see that intervention with Maeve and Homelander, to see them kind of in action. I didn't like how it ended. Yes. It was pretty brutal.
Right. I like seeing the superhero stuff, even when it's kind of brutal. I like seeing them do it.
Right. Any final thoughts before we drop off here?
No, just a really good show.
Yeah. We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.